Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever understood every word in an English sentence and still had no idea what the person actually meant?
Oh my God, yes. That happens to me all the time. Like, I understand the grammar, I know the vocabulary, but when someone speaks fast or casually, I'm just lost.
Exactly. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You might not be learning English. You might only be learning textbook English.
Wait, aren't they the same thing?
That's the illusion. Textbook English teaches you how the language is supposed to work. Real English shows you how it's actually used in everyday life. And the gap between those two is where most learners struggle.
That actually explains a lot, because sometimes I hear native speakers and I'm like, this is not what I studied.
And you're not alone. In fact, if you've ever thought, why is real English so fast? Or why do native speakers sound completely different? Then this episode is for you.
Okay, now I'm curious. So what's really going on? Why does real English feel so different?
Because real English is messy. It's emotional. It's full of shortcuts, slang, contractions, and unspoken meaning. And textbooks? They clean all of that up.
So basically, textbooks are giving us the perfect version of English, but real life is imperfect?
Exactly. And here's a powerful question for you watching right now. Are you preparing for a test, or are you preparing for real conversations?
Oof, that hits.
And by the way, if you've ever felt frustrated or stuck because of this gap, I want you to comment below real versus textbook. I want to see how many of you are experiencing this.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like this is something almost every learner goes through, but no one really talks about.
And today, on Talk Easy Daily, we're going to break it all down. Not just what the difference is, but how to fix it so you can actually understand real conversations.
Okay, now I'm excited, because I don't just want to understand English in a classroom, I want to understand people.
And that's the goal. Real connection, real communication, real confidence.
So where do we start?
We start with a simple but shocking idea, something most learners don't realize until it's too late.
Now you've got my attention. What is it?
The biggest mistake learners make isn't their grammar. It's believing that understanding words means understanding meaning.
Wait, what?
And once you see this clearly, your entire approach to learning English will change.
Okay, now I need to understand this, because I think I've been making that mistake.
Most people have. And in the next few minutes, you're going to see exactly how and why it's holding you back more than you think.
All right, let's go deeper.
Let's do it. All right, Emma, let's break this illusion completely.
I'm ready, because I really feel like I've been tricked by perfect English.
You kind of have. Let me give you a simple sentence from a textbook. I am going to visit my friend this evening.
Yeah, that sounds normal. Very clear.
Now listen to how a native speaker actually says it. I'm going to go see my friend later.
Wow, that already feels different.
Different words, different rhythm, different structure, but the meaning is the same.
So if I only learned the first version, I might not fully understand the second one in real life.
Exactly. And here's where it gets deeper. Real English is not just about words. It's about patterns, sounds, and intent.
Intent?
Yes, what the speaker really means, not just what they say.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine someone says, "Yeah, that's interesting."
That sounds positive.
It can be, but it can also mean, "I'm bored" or "I don't agree," depending on tone.
Oh, so meaning isn't only in the sentence, it's in how it's said.
Exactly. And textbooks almost never teach that.
That explains so much confusion. Sometimes I think someone agrees with me, but later I realize they didn't.
And here's a question for you watching. Have you ever misunderstood someone even though you knew all the words? If yes, type yes in the comments.
I feel like the comment section is going to explode on that one.
Because this is the hidden struggle. Most learners focus on vocabulary and grammar, but real communication lives in tone, context, and shared understanding.
So basically, I've been focusing on the wrong things?
Not wrong, but incomplete.
That's a relief, but also a little scary.
It should be a little uncomfortable. Growth always is. But here's the good news. Once you understand this gap, you can start closing it fast.
Okay, but how exactly do we do that?
First, we need to understand why real English feels so fast and confusing.
Yes, that's one of my biggest problems. Native speakers sound like they're speaking at 2 times speed.
Let me reveal something surprising. It's not just speed.
Then what is it?
It's connected speech.
That sounds technical.
It's actually simple. When native speakers talk, they don't pronounce every word clearly. Words connect, sounds disappear, and everything blends together.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. The sentence, "What are you doing?"
Easy.
In real English, it becomes, "What you doing?"
Wait, that's the same sentence?
Exactly.
No wonder I get confused. I would never connect those two.
And that's the problem. You're trained to hear separate words, but real English is like a flowing stream, not separate drops.
That's such a good way to describe it.
And here's a quick challenge for you watching. Next time you hear a native speaker, don't try to catch every word. Just listen to the flow.
That's interesting because I always try to catch every single word and then I panic when I miss one.
That's actually what slows you down.
Seriously?
Yes, because real understanding comes from catching meaning chunks, not individual words.
Meaning chunks.
For example, instead of hearing, "Did you eat yet?" you hear it as one unit. "Did you eat yet?"
That sounds like one long word.
Exactly. And your brain needs to get used to decoding that.
Okay, this is starting to make sense now.
Good. Because now we're going to go one level deeper. And this is where things get really interesting.
I'm ready.
Real English is full of hidden shortcuts that textbooks never teach.
Like slang?
Slang is one part of it, but I'm talking about everyday shortcuts people use without even thinking.
Now I'm curious again. What kind of shortcuts?
Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard someone say, "I kind of want to leave"?
Yeah, all the time.
That sentence is full of shortcuts. Kinda instead of kind of, wanna instead of want to.
True, but I never thought about it deeply.
And here's the key. If you're only trained on textbook English, your brain treats these as new words instead of variations.
So instead of understanding quickly, I get confused.
Exactly. And confusion kills confidence.
That's so true. The moment I don't understand something, I just shut down.
And that's why many learners feel like they're bad at English, when in reality, they're just not trained for real English.
That actually makes me feel better.
It should, because this is fixable.
Okay, I have a question, and I think a lot of viewers are thinking this too.
Go ahead.
Should we stop learning textbook English completely?
Great question. And the answer might surprise you. No.
Really?
Really. Textbook English gives you structure. It builds your foundation. But if you stop there, you'll never feel natural or confident.
So it's like learning the rules of driving, but never actually driving on the road.
Perfect analogy.
Wow.
Wow. And here's something important for you watching. If you've been studying English for years but still struggle with real conversations, it's not because you're slow.
It's because you've been practicing the wrong version of English.
Exactly.
That's a powerful realization.
And we're just getting started.
Wait, there's more?
Oh yes, because in the next part, we're going to uncover something even more surprising.
Now I'm hooked.
The psychological reason why your brain resists real English, even when you've studied for years.
That sounds deep.
It is. And once you understand it, you'll finally see why progress has felt so frustrated and how to break through it.
Okay, I'm not going anywhere.
Good. And if you're still watching right now, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Talk Easy Daily, because what's coming next might completely change how you learn English.
Trust me, you don't want to miss this.
Let's go deeper. Let's talk about something a little uncomfortable, Emma.
Uh-oh. Those are always the moments where I realize I've been doing something wrong.
Not wrong, but misunderstood. Tell me honestly, have you ever felt like you know English, but when it's time to actually use it, your brain just freezes?
Every single time. It's like everything I study just disappears.
That right there, that feeling, is not about intelligence. It's about how your brain has been trained.
Wait, so it's not my fault?
No, it's your training. And here's the psychological truth most people never hear.
I'm listening.
Your brain is addicted to safe English.
Safe English?
Yes, the kind of English where everything is clear, slow, structured, and predictable, like textbooks, lessons, and exams.
Oh, wow, that's exactly how I study.
Of course, because it feels good. You understand everything, you feel in control, and your brain gets rewarded.
Yeah, I feel smart when I understand those lessons.
Exactly. But here's the problem.
There's always a problem.
Real English is not safe. It's unpredictable, messy, emotional, fast, and full of uncertainty.
So when I hear real English, my brain kind of panics?
Exactly. Your brain goes, wait, this doesn't match what I learned, and it freezes.
That explains that blank feeling I get in conversations.
And here's something even deeper. Your brain tries to protect you from discomfort.
Protect me?
Yes. So instead of practicing real English, which feels hard and confusing, you go back to what feels easy. Textbooks, grammar exercises, slow lessons.
Oh no, I do that all the time.
Most learners do, and that's why they stay stuck for years. That's actually scary. Let me ask you, and everyone watching, be honest. Do you spend more time studying English or actually experiencing it?
Oof, I think I already know the answer for most people.
And if your answer is studying, then you found the bottleneck.
So how do we fix this? Because I don't want to stay in that loop.
First, you need to retrain your brain to become comfortable with not understanding everything.
That sounds uncomfortable.
It is, but it's necessary because real conversations don't wait for you to understand every word.
That's so true. People don't pause and say, "Let me repeat slowly for you."
Exactly. So instead of chasing perfect understanding, you start training for partial understanding.
Partial understanding?
Yes, catching the main idea, the emotion, the intention, even if you miss some words.
That actually sounds more realistic.
It is. And here's a quick shift you can make starting today. Next time you listen to English, don't ask, "Did I understand everything?"
Then what should I ask?
Ask, "Did I understand enough?"
That's such a small change, but it feels powerful.
Because it removes pressure. And when pressure goes down, comprehension goes up.
That makes sense. When I'm stressed, I understand even less.
Exactly. And here's a surprising truth. Native speakers don't understand every single word either.
Wait, seriously?
Yes. But they don't panic. They focus on meaning, not perfection.
Wow, I never thought about that.
And this is where your transformation begins, when you stop trying to be perfect and start trying to be effective.
I love that.
Now let's go even deeper.
There's more?
Always, because now we need to talk about something that quietly destroys your ability to understand real English.
Okay, what is it?
Translation.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
And I know it might be controversial, but stay with me.
I'm listening.
When you hear English and instantly translate it into your native language, your brain slows down dramatically.
That's exactly what I do. I translate everything in my head.
Let me show you why that's a problem. Imagine someone says, "Hold on a second."
Okay.
If your brain goes English to your language to meaning, you've already lost time.
Meanwhile, the conversation keeps going.
Exactly. And now you're behind.
That's exactly how it feels, like I'm always one step late.
Because real English happens in real time. There's no pause button.
So what should I do instead?
You need to train your brain to connect English directly to meaning, not translation.
That sounds hard.
At first, yes, but here's a simple trick.
I love simple tricks.
When you hear a phrase like, "It's raining cats and dogs," don't translate it.
Because if I translate it, it makes no sense.
Exactly. Instead, connect it to an image, heavy rain.
Oh, so I create a direct meaning in my mind.
Yes. English, idea, understanding.
Not English translation idea.
Perfect.
That actually feels faster just thinking about it.
It is, and it's how fluent speakers process language.
Okay, I have to ask, how long does it take to build that habit?
It depends on consistency, but here's the key. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to practice daily.
That's encouraging.
And here's something for you watching. Next time you catch yourself translating, pause and ask, "Can I understand this without translating?"
That's a great challenge.
And if you're ready to take this seriously, type "no translation" in the comments.
I feel like that's going to motivate people.
Because small mindset shifts create massive progress.
This is already changing how I think about learning English.
Good, because now we're about to unlock something even more practical.
I like where this is going.
In the next part, we're going to show you exactly how real English appears in everyday situations.
Like real conversations?
Yes, real scenarios, real phrases, real reactions, the kind of English you actually hear outside the classroom.
That's exactly what I need.
And not just that, we'll show you how to respond naturally so you don't just understand, you participate.
Okay, now I'm really excited.
And if you've made it this far, take a second, like the video, subscribe to Talk Easy Daily, and share this with someone who's struggling with English.
Because trust me, this is the kind of English learning we all needed earlier.
And now, let's step into the real world. All right, Emma, now we step into the real world.
Finally, this is what I've been waiting for.
Good, because what you're about to see is where most learners suddenly realize, oh, this is why I struggle.
I already feel like that moment is coming.
Let's start with a very simple situation. You walk into a cafe, the barista looks at you and says, "What can I get for you?"
That sounds easy. I'd understand that.
Good. Now imagine this instead. "Hey, what are you having?"
Wait, that feels different.
Same meaning, completely different form.
Yeah, I can see how that would confuse someone.
And here's where it gets interesting. In real life, you don't get time to analyze this.
Right, you have to respond immediately.
Exactly. So your brain needs to recognize patterns instantly, not translate, not analyze, just understand.
That's a big shift from how we learn in school.
Huge shift. Now let's go deeper into a real conversation.
I'm ready.
Imagine your friend says, "I'm kind of wiped out today."
Wiped out, like tired.
Exactly. But notice this phrase is rarely taught in textbooks,
True, I learned I am very tired.
which is correct, but less natural in casual conversation.
So if I only say I am very tired, I sound a bit formal?
Yes, not wrong, but not natural.
That's such a subtle difference.
And these subtle differences create a huge gap in how you're perceived.
Wow.
Now, let me ask you something, and everyone watching. What would you say if someone told you, "I'm kind of wiped out today"?
Maybe, oh, you should rest.
That works, but in real English, you might hear something like, "Yeah, I feel you," or "Same here."
Oh, that feels more natural.
Exactly. Real English is full of these short, emotional responses.
That's interesting. It's not always about full sentences.
Yes. In fact, shorter is often more natural.
That's the opposite of what I learned.
And that's why this feels like a new world.
It really does.
Now let's introduce a quick pattern interrupt. Myth versus reality.
I love these.
Myth. Fluent English means speaking in perfect, full sentences.
That sounds like something I believed.
Reality. Fluent English often means speaking in simple, natural fragments.
That's a big mindset shift.
For example, instead of saying, "I do not understand what you are trying to say," a native speaker might say, "I'm not following."
I'm not following.
Exactly.
That's so much shorter.
And more natural. Now here's another situation.
Let's go.
You text a friend, "Do you want to hang out later?"
Okay.
They reply, "I'm down."
Oh, that means they agree, right?
Yes, but imagine if you learned only textbook English.
I might think it means something negative, like feeling sad.
Exactly. Context changes everything.
That's kind of scary, but also exciting.
It becomes exciting when you start recognizing these patterns.
So it's like learning a new layer of the language.
Perfect way to describe it.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
What about fast conversations between native speakers? That's where I completely lose track.
Great question. Let's simulate one.
Okay.
Person A says, "You good?" Person B, "Yeah, just a bit busy." Person A, "Gotcha."
That's so short.
Exactly, but there's a lot of meaning packed inside.
Yeah, you good means are you okay, right?
Correct. And gotcha means I understand.
Wow, if you don't know these, the conversation feels confusing.
And here's the key insight. Real English prioritizes efficiency.
Meaning people try to say things faster and shorter.
Yes, less effort, same meaning.
That actually makes sense.
Now let's make this interactive for you watching.
Okay.
If someone says, "I'll catch you later," what do they mean?
Not literally catch, right?
Exactly. It means "I'll talk to you later" or "see you later."
This is actually fun.
It becomes fun when you stop overthinking and start recognizing patterns.
I'm starting to see that.
Now, here's a small story.
I love stories.
One of my students studied English for 5 years. Perfect grammar, great vocabulary.
Sounds impressive.
But then, one day, he got a job opportunity abroad.
That must have been exciting.
It was, until his first team meeting.
Uh-oh.
His colleague walked in and said, "Hey, Daniel, you ready to jump in?"
That sounds simple.
But Daniel froze,
Why?
because in his mind he was thinking, "Jump where?"
Oh no.
He understood every word, but not the meaning.
That's exactly what we talked about earlier.
Yes,
And it got worse. During the meeting, people said things like, "Let's circle back on that. I'll ping you later. We're a bit behind."
Those are so common.
But for Daniel, it felt like a completely different language.
I can imagine how stressful that must have been.
After the meeting, he told me something I'll never forget.
What did he say?
He said, "I feel like I studied English, but not the English people actually use."
Wow, that's powerful.
And maybe you've felt that too.
Honestly, yes.
So here's what Daniel did next, and this is where everything changed.
I'm listening closely.
He stopped focusing only on correctness and started focusing on connection.
What does that mean exactly?
Instead of asking, "Is this sentence perfect?" he started asking, "Is this how people really speak?"
That's a big shift.
And he started immersing himself in real English, podcasts, casual conversations, interviews.
Like this one?
Exactly like Talk Easy Daily.
Nice.
And something interesting happened.
What?
At first, he understood only 50%.
That sounds discouraging.
It was, but he didn't stop.
That's important.
Then it became 60%, then 70%, and suddenly one day,
What happened?
he laughed at a joke in English without translating.
That's such a big moment.
Huge, because that's when you know your brain is starting to think in English.
That's the goal, right?
Exactly. Not just understanding, but feeling the language.
I love that.
Now let me share another quick scenario.
Go for it.
Imagine you're at a party. Someone says, "Make yourself at home."
That sounds welcoming.
Yes, but if you take it literally,
I might start acting like it's my house.
exactly. But the real meaning is relax, feel comfortable.
These hidden meanings are everywhere.
And once you start noticing them, real English becomes less confusing and more predictable.
That's encouraging.
Now here's a powerful question for you watching. When was the last time you heard a phrase in English and thought, "That doesn't make sense"?
Oh, that's a good one.
If that's happened to you, comment the phrase below. Let's learn together.
I love how interactive this is.
Because learning English shouldn't be passive, it should be active.
That's true.
Now let's talk about a small but powerful habit.
Okay.
Every time you learn a new phrase, don't just write it down.
Use it?
Exactly. Use it in a sentence. Say it out loud. Imagine a situation.
So it becomes part of my active vocabulary.
Yes, because recognition is not enough. You need production.
That makes sense.
Let me give you an example. Phrase, "I'm not really feeling it."
That means you're not interested.
Exactly. Now imagine you're invited to something you don't enjoy.
I could say, I'm not really feeling it today.
Perfect.
That actually feels natural.
And that's the goal. Natural, not perfect.
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Good, because now we're going to go even deeper into advanced insights that most learners never discover.
Now I'm curious again.
We're going to talk about how to train your brain to automatically understand real English without effort.
That sounds like magic.
It's not magic, it's method.
Even better.
And if you've made it this far, this is where things really start to transform.
So stay with us.
Because the next part might completely change how you experience English forever. All right, this is where everything changes.
I feel like you've been building up to this the whole time.
Because this is the turning point. Up until now, we've talked about the problem, textbook English versus real English, but now we're going to rewire how your brain actually processes English.
That sounds intense, but I'm ready.
Good. Let me ask you something, and I want everyone watching to think about this too. When you hear English, do you feel like you're decoding it or experiencing it?
Definitely decoding, like I'm solving a puzzle.
Exactly, and that's the issue. Fluent listeners don't decode, they recognize.
What's the difference?
Decoding is slow, it's word by word. Recognition is instant, it's pattern-based.
So fluent people don't think about every word?
Almost never. They hear chunks, patterns, emotions, and their brain instantly connects it to meaning.
That sounds like a completely different skill.
It is. And here's the big idea. You don't become fluent by learning more words.
Then how?
You become fluent by recognizing more patterns.
Patterns. Okay, explain that.
Think about the phrase, "I'll let you know."
I know that one.
Good. Now imagine hearing it in real life. "I'll let you know."
Oh, that sounds different again.
But if your brain recognizes the pattern, you don't panic. You instantly understand.
So the goal is not just vocabulary, it's familiarity.
Exactly. Familiarity creates speed.
That's such a powerful idea.
And here's how you build that familiarity, through repetition in context.
Not just memorizing lists?
Never just lists. You need to see and hear phrases again and again in real situations.
Like in conversations, shows, podcasts.
Exactly. Let me give you a simple method.
I love methods.
It's called the 3-layer listening method.
That sounds interesting.
First layer, just listen, no pressure. Don't try to understand everything.
That already feels different.
Second layer, listen again, but now focus on catching key phrases.
Okay.
Third layer, listen and repeat. Copy the rhythm, the tone, the flow.
So I'm training both my ears and my mouth.
Exactly, because understanding and speaking are connected.
That makes so much sense.
And here's a quick tip. Don't pause too much.
Really?
Yes, if you pause every second to understand everything, you break the natural rhythm.
So I should stay with the flow?
Always. Train your brain to keep moving forward.
That's going to be a challenge, but I see why it matters.
And here's something surprising. Confusion is actually a good sign.
Wait, what?
It means your brain is being stretched. It's adapting.
So feeling lost sometimes is part of the process?
It's essential to the process.
That actually makes me feel a lot better.
Good, because now I'm going to give you something very practical.
Let's go.
From today, stop asking, "Do I understand this perfectly?"
Okay.
Start asking, "Am I getting better at recognizing patterns?"
That's such a different mindset.
And that mindset shift is what separates stuck learners from fluent speakers.
I feel like this moment should be paused and really thought about.
Absolutely. In fact, if this idea just clicked for you, comment "patterns" below.
I love that. It makes it real.
Now let's go even deeper into something advanced.
There's more?
Always, because now we're talking about automaticity.
That sounds complicated.
It's simple. It means your brain understands English without conscious effort.
Like how I understand my native language?
Exactly. No translation, no analysis, just instant understanding.
That's the dream.
And here's how you build it. Mass exposure to real English.
So consistency matters more than intensity.
Exactly. 20 minutes every day beats 3 hours once a week.
That's encouraging.
And here's a small habit that can change everything.
Tell me,
Every time you replace some of your entertainment with English.
like watching shows?
Yes, but actively. Listen for phrases. Notice how people react. Observe tone.
So I'm not just watching, I'm learning.
Exactly. Turn passive time into active growth.
I like that.
And here's a powerful realization. Fluency is not about perfection.
It's about comfort, confidence, and connection.
Exactly.
That's deep.
And that's the level we want you to reach.
I feel like this entire conversation has changed how I see English.
Good, because now we're ready for the final part.
Already?
Yes, and in the final part, we're going to bring everything together. Clear, simple, powerful.
A full recap?
And a roadmap so you know exactly what to do next.
I need that.
And we'll end something strong so you don't just feel motivated.
But actually take action.
Exactly.
All right, let's finish strong.
Let's do it. All right, let's bring this home.
I feel like this is the moment where everything finally connects.
Exactly. So let me ask you one last powerful question, and I want everyone watching to really think about this.
Okay.
Are you learning English to pass tests or to live real conversations?
That question alone changes everything.
Because if your goal is real communication, then your strategy has to change.
Right. I can't just rely on textbook English anymore.
Exactly. So let's recap everything we've discovered today, clearly and simply.
Let's do it.
First, textbook English is structured, clean, and predictable.
But real English is messy, emotional, and fast.
Second, understanding words does not mean understanding meaning,
That one really hit me.
because meaning lives in tone, context, and intention.
All right, before we completely wrap this episode, I want to give you something a little unexpected.
Oh, I thought we already finished.
We did, but this is like a bonus moment, the kind that stays in your mind after the video ends.
I like the sound of that.
Let me ask you something simple. If two people are speaking English, one using perfect grammar and the other using natural, slightly imperfect real English,
Okay.
who do you think sounds more fluent?
I used to think the person with perfect grammar.
And now?
Now, I'd say the one who sounds natural.
Exactly. And that realization alone can completely change your journey.
Because it removes that pressure to be perfect all the time.
Yes, and replaces it with something much more powerful, authentic communication.
That feels more human.
Because language is human. It's not a test, it's not a performance, it's connection.
That's such a beautiful way to look at it.
And here's something I want you to remember. Every time you feel stuck, confused, or overwhelmed,
Yeah?
it doesn't mean you're failing.
Then what does it mean?
It means you're stepping into real English.
Wow.
And real English is where real growth happens.
I feel like someone watching this needed to hear that.
I know they did.
So instead of avoiding confusion,
You lean into it.
instead of going back to safe English,
You challenge yourself with real conversations.
and instead of chasing perfection,
You build confidence through experience.
that's such a powerful mindset.
And if you carry just one idea from this entire episode,
Just one.
let it be this. Fluency is not about knowing everything.
It's about understanding enough and continuing anyway.
Exactly.
That's going to stay with me.
Good. Because this is not just an English lesson.
It's a different way of thinking,
And that's what Talk Easy Daily is all about.
helping you actually live the language, not just study it.
So the next time you hear fast, messy, real English,
Don't panic
smile.
and think, this is my training.
Perfect.
And honestly, I feel excited now instead of scared.
That's the transformation.
And if you're watching and you feel the same way,
Then you're on the right path.
don't forget to like, subscribe, and be part of this journey with Talk Easy Daily.
Because we're not just learning English here.
We're learning how to use it in real life.
And that's what truly matters.
See you in the next one.
Keep going. All right, now this is truly the final moment.
I feel like we've said goodbye 3 times already.
I know, but this time I want to leave you with something practical, something you can start using today, not tomorrow.
Okay, I'm listening carefully.
I want you to imagine this. Tomorrow, you hear someone say something in English and you don't fully understand it.
That's very realistic.
In the past, what would you do?
Panic, freeze, maybe stop listening completely.
Exactly. But now, you're going to do something different.
What?
You're going to stay calm and ask yourself 3 simple questions.
3 questions. Okay, tell me.
First, what is the situation?
So I focus on context.
Yes. Where are you? What's happening? That already gives you clues.
That makes sense.
Second, what emotion do I hear?
Oh, so I listen to tone, not just words.
Exactly. Are they excited, annoyed, relaxed?
That actually helps a lot.
And third, what's the most likely meaning?
Even if I'm not 100% sure?
Especially then.
So I make a smart guess instead of shutting down.
Perfect.
That feels so much more empowering.
Because now you're participating, not escaping.
I like that.
And here's something important. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything.
It comes from handling uncertainty.
Exactly.
Wow, that's bigger than just English.
It applies to everything in life.
This conversation really went deeper than I expected.
That's the Talk Easy Daily way.
And you know what? I feel like if someone follows just this one method, they'll already improve.
They will, but only if they actually use it.
That's the key.
So here's a small challenge for you watching.
I love challenges.
For the next 24 hours, every time you hear English,
Okay,
don't translate,
that's hard but doable.
don't panic,
Even harder?
and don't aim for perfection.
That one I really need.
Just stay present, observe, and respond.
That sounds like real communication.
Because it is.
And if they try this, they should come back and tell us what happened.
Absolutely. Comment your experience. We read them.
And it helps others too.
Exactly. Because you're not learning alone. You're part of a community.
I love that.
And before we truly close this episode,
One last thing?
one last thing.
Go ahead.
If this video changed even one thing in how you think about English,
Just one shift.
then don't let it end here.
Take action today.
Watch more real English.
Listen differently.
Speak without fear.
And trust the process.
Because fluency is not a moment,
It's a journey.
and you've already started.
With us on Talk Easy Daily.
So keep going,
Keep practicing.
and keep it real.
We'll see you in the next one.
Don't stop now. All right, now this is truly the final moment.
This time it feels real.
It does. And before we close this chapter, let's take a quiet second and reflect.
Yeah, because this wasn't just about English.
Exactly. It was about how you experience English.
That's such a powerful difference.
At the beginning of this episode, you might have believed something very common.
That if I learn enough grammar and vocabulary, I'll be fluent.
And now,
Now I see that's only part of the story.
the real story is this. Language is alive.
It changes, it flows, it adapts.
And if you only learn the perfect version, you miss the real one.
That explains why so many learners feel stuck.
Exactly. But now, you're not one of them anymore.
That feels good to say.
Because now you understand something deeper.
That real English is about connection, not perfection.
And connection requires flexibility.
Meaning I need to adapt, listen, feel, and respond.
Yes, not just remember rules.
This changes everything.
And here's something I want you to imagine.
Okay?
A few months from now, you're watching a movie or listening to a conversation.
Yeah?
And suddenly, you're not translating.
You're just understanding.
You catch phrases, emotions, reactions.
And it feels natural.
That moment is coming.
That gives me so much hope.
It's not hope. It's a result of consistent practice.
Right, if I follow what we talked about.
Exactly. Exposure, patterns, meaning, confidence.
And letting go of perfection.
Always.
You know what? I feel like this episode should be watched more than once.
Absolutely. Because every time you revisit it, something new will click.
That's true.
And for you watching, here's a final invitation.
I like this already.
Don't just be a viewer.
Be a participant.
Comment your thoughts.
Share your struggles.
Tell us your wins, even the small ones.
Because those small wins build real confidence.
And that's what we're building together here at Talk Easy Daily.
A real journey with real progress.
So if you've been quietly watching,
This is your moment to engage.
hit like,
Subscribe.
share this with someone who needs it.
And most importantly,
Start applying what you learned today.
because knowledge without action,
Changes nothing.
but action, even imperfect action.
Changes everything.
That's such a perfect way to end.
It is.
So until next time,
Keep listening
keep practicing
and keep stepping into real English.
with Talk Easy Daily.
We'll see you soon.
Don't stop now.
All right, now this is truly the final moment.
This time it feels real.
It does. And before we close this chapter, let's take a quiet second and reflect.
Yeah, because this wasn't just about English.
Exactly. It was about how you experience English.
That's such a powerful difference.
At the beginning of this episode, you might have believed something very common.
That if I learn enough grammar and vocabulary, I'll be fluent.
And now,
Now I see that's only part of the story.
the real story is this. Language is alive.
It changes, it flows, it adapts.
And if you only learn the perfect version, you miss the real one.
That explains why so many learners feel stuck.
Exactly. But now, you're not one of them anymore.
That feels good to say.
Because now you understand something deeper.
That real English is about connection, not perfection.
And connection requires flexibility.
Meaning I need to adapt, listen, feel, and respond.
Yes, not just remember rules.
This changes everything.
And here's something I want you to imagine.
Okay?
A few months from now, you're watching a movie or listening to a conversation.
Yeah?
And suddenly, you're not translating.
You're just understanding.
You catch phrases, emotions, reactions.
And it feels natural.
That moment is coming.
That gives me so much hope.
It's not hope, it's a result of consistent practice.
Right, if I follow what we talked about.
Exactly. Exposure, patterns, meaning, confidence.
And letting go of perfection.
Always.
You know what? I feel like this episode should be watched more than once.
Absolutely. Because every time you revisit it, something new will click.
That's true.
And for you watching, here's a final invitation.
I like this already.
Don't just be a viewer.
Be a participant.
Comment your thoughts.
Share your struggles.
Tell us your wins, even the small ones.
Because those small wins build real confidence.
And that's what we're building together here at Talk Easy Daily.
A real journey with real progress.
So if you've been quietly watching,
This is your moment to engage.
hit like,
Subscribe.
share this with someone who needs it.
And most importantly,
Start applying what you learned today.
because knowledge without action,
Changes nothing.
but action, even imperfect action,
Changes everything.
that's such a perfect way to end.
It is.
So until next time,
Keep listening.
keep practicing
And keep stepping into real English.
with Talk Easy Daily.
We'll see you soon.
Don't stop now.